1,
2,
3, let's go!
Hi, my name is Alina Kunitskaya. Space exploration has long been a source of inspiration for scientists and engineers to find innovative solutions to challenging problems. I first became fascinated with space exploration in high school when I realized how many things in our everyday life came from the space program. Some of you might be wearing wireless headsets to listen to this talk, which were initially developed as a hands-free communication system for astronauts. If you drive or take the bus, you rely on tires that contain materials initially developed for the Mars rovers. If you wear prescription glasses or own a pair of sunglasses, you can thank NASA for scratch-resistant lenses. Memory foam, GPS, water filtration and air purifiers, solar panels, phone cameras, portable computers, the list goes on. One of my high school years was also the year when Canadian astronaut Chris Hadfield became the first Canadian commander of the International Space Station. And he made all these videos showing what life in space is like. And so I became curious of what it's like to become an astronaut and what it's like to be an astronaut. And I've realized that astronauts are lifelong learners. They have diverse skills in engineering, sciences, math, medicine, and even photography. They're excellent problem solvers, excellent communicators, and ironically, despite this impressive list of qualifications, all astronauts that I've ever met have down-to-earth personalities. And that's when I thought to myself, I want to be that person. I want to be an astronaut. I'm not an astronaut yet, but this dream and this passion for space exploration has led me to where I am today. As an undergraduate student, I started looking for opportunities to get involved and to work on some of the challenges in space exploration. As many of you might already know, the next big goal of human spaceflight is getting humans to Mars. But there's still many challenges that we need to solve before pioneering Mars. Of course, we need to build rockets capable of carrying humans to Mars. We need to develop life support systems and design habitats. And those are some of the big challenges that come to mind. But spaceflight is so complex. There's so many challenges to solve that we don't necessarily think about. Like, have you ever wondered, what are we going to do with astronauts' poop? Yes, poop, you've heard me right. Over a 2-year mission to Mars, a crew of 6 will generate about 6 tons of solid organic waste, which is about the weight of an elephant. The current practice on the International Space Station is to dehydrate the feces, package them up, and throw them out into space. Thanks to gravity, bags of poop get pulled towards Earth and they simply burn in the atmosphere. For observers on Earth, looking up at the beautiful night sky, burning bags of poop look like shooting stars. Anyone ever made a wish that didn't come true? Maybe it wasn't a shooting star. But on the way to Mars during a 6-month journey, as we get away from Earth's gravitational pull, the strongest gravitational pull will be from the spacecraft itself. That means if you try to throw bags of poop out into space, they will start orbiting the spacecraft, creating a collision hazard. We did have a different strategy for dealing with poop on the moon. Bags of poop were simply left behind, an option that is not feasible for long-term sustainable exploration of Mars. Plus, let's consider another challenge with long-duration spaceflight. Can you imagine packing for a 2-year camping trip? How about a 2-year camping trip where the nearest store is over 50 million kilometers away? Transporting materials to Mars will be challenging due to long mission duration, high transportation costs, and difficulties in anticipating every little thing astronauts might need on Mars. So recycling waste to get useful resources will be crucial for long-duration spaceflight. So I joined an interdisciplinary team of undergraduate students participating in the International Genetically Engineered Machine Competition. And we created a project called Astroplastic to address both of these challenges. In our system, genetically engineered bacteria is used to produce a bioplastic from volatile fatty acids found in solid human waste. The produced bioplastic could then be used to 3D print useful items for astronauts. This is our first successful experiment showing bioplastic production from a fecal simulant using modified bacteria. On the right is a picture of a fecal simulant that mimics the chemical properties of real feces, and it was prepared using a recipe from NASA. On the left are two test tubes. One is an empty control tube, and another one contains a tiny bit of plastic that was produced by modified bacteria from about 1/3 of the synthetic feces shown here. And lastly, here's a wrench that we molded from the type of plastic our bacteria is producing. My role on this project was to lead the development of a start-to-finish bioplastic production process and to test the major steps of the process in the lab. But I think my biggest contribution was making synthetic feces for all the experiments. And this project got us a major award at an international genetically engineered machine competition, but the best part was yet to come. So this process was designed for a Martian environment, assuming Martian gravity. But as I mentioned before, the challenge with waste management will also be the case on the way to Mars in the absence of gravity. And there's one step of the process in particular that would be most impacted by the absence of gravity. Let me tell you more about it. At the end of the process, we end up with liquid mostly free of solids. But if we zoom in closely, it contains the plastic particles produced by bacteria. And these plastic particles are so tiny that conventional methods to remove them, like centrifugation or filtration, wouldn't be feasible. What we can do instead is add air to the liquid, and the plastic particles will stick to the air bubbles. And as the air bubbles rise to the surface, they would carry the plastic particles along. We can then collect and dry the plastic. But in zero gravity environment, bubbles don't rise to the surface as they do on Earth. So to test whether this process can be adapted for a microgravity environment, we applied to the Canadian Reduced Gravity Experiment Design Challenge to test this step of the process on a parabolic flight. This competition is run by Students for the Exploration and Development of Space, or SEDS Canada for short. It's a nonprofit that aims to create opportunities for students to engage in the Canadian space sector. And parabolic flight, also known as a vomit comet, is a way to achieve weightlessness on Earth. And so once our project was accepted for this competition, I led a team of students to design, build, and test a microgravity payload. 8 months later, I found myself on board this plane at Ottawa International Airport with a completed payload shown on the right. In the typical microgravity parabola, a plane pulls up at about a 45-degree angle and you experience twice the normal gravity. Then as the plane reaches the top of the parabola and enters the free fall, you're weightless. In our flight, we did 8 parabolas of about 20 seconds of weightlessness each. 2 parabolas were for fun, and 6 parabolas were for data collection. In microgravity, fluids tend to shift to the head, giving you a feeling similar to being upside down. But on a parabolic flight, when I found myself sitting upright with the fluid shifting to my head, it suddenly felt like the plane is flying upside down. And yes, the vomit comet lived up to its name. Despite this, we're able to successfully carry out our experimental procedures, and the experiment operated as expected. Here's a short video showing the actual experiment. results of this experiment will inform our future process design so we can adapt our bioplastic production process for the zero-gravity environment. There is no set path to becoming an astronaut, but the advice that I've received from a few astronauts is do what you love and thrive to excel in your field. This dream of becoming an astronaut has pushed me to take on opportunities that felt out of my comfort zone, which helped me grow. The experience of flying a microgravity payload on the Parabolic Flight gave me a feel for how challenging an astronaut's career can be. This experience pushed me physically. I experienced uncomfortable temperatures, G-forces, and motion sickness. And it also pushed me mentally. Despite this uncomfortable, confusing environment, I had to be able to solve problems. There was an entire team behind this experiment that trusted me to fly the experiment, to do the right thing, and to solve problems quickly should they arise. Although this was challenging, experiencing weightlessness was a dream come true, and it was one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had. Thanks to these hands-on experiences in the space sector, most recently I had an opportunity to intern at the Canadian Space Agency in the field of space health. And I'm very excited to continue my journey of becoming an astronaut. I encourage you too to explore, try different things, and challenge yourself until you find a passion that drives you. Remember, the sky is not the limit. There are bags of poop left behind on the moon.